Hi everyone. Can you all hear me? So first of all, I hope you had a great evening yesterday at the Eiffel Tower. Now that you've all come back down to earth, I thought it would be a good opportunity that we all take some altitude together. So welcome aboard Mathieu Airways, and I'll take you on a little journey today, if you would allow me to do so. I know that a lot of people have put their trust today when it comes to me not screwing this presentation, so I'll try to do my best. And in particular, I wanted to thank EACD, all the organizers, and Sylvain and Christopher. As you can probably see, even from now on, I've got cerebral palsy. That's kind of easy to see because my arms are up in the air. And I was born at 25 weeks, and I'm 31 years old. So usually that's the step where like loads of people go like, wow, how is it possible? And wow, that's amazing. To me, I think I'm not like a hero or any type of amazing person, but the amazing persons are all those with cerebral palsy while living in the European Union and beyond, as well as their families and loved ones. So to go on with the first slide, if that's possible. So I wanted to make really the case today so that we invest in our kids, whether or not they've got disabilities. Why? Because kids are our future, and if I was lucky enough to be able to be born and share that wonderful experience with you that life is, because it truly is the greatest gift we could ever dream of. So thank you, Mom and Dad. That's because I've got, first of all, wonderful parents. B, because they were tremendous and dedicated doctors and other professionals who helped me out since I was a kid. And C, also maybe, even though I don't want to do politics, because I was born in the European Union. And I think if I would have been born in a country which would not have been at peace, but still suffering wars, so on and so forth, it might have been much more difficult for research to progress and carry on. I wanted to pay huge tribute to all those with cerebral palsy who came before me, but who sadly could not make it after birth and be with us today. I'm sure they would have had a lot of talents to show to us all, and I'm sure that research progressed because of each case involving premature birth that occurred. And I think we never have to forget that we are tremendously privileged to be alive. So when it comes to being a kid and schooling, well, I can say I've met some amazing people, but it wasn't easy. And to me, in the French system, what was a bit difficult is, although I think we've got a school system of which we can be proud of, honestly, it's not very inclusive. By that, I mean that generally there is one standard program everyone has to follow. And to tell you a little secret, although I'm sure that all the specialists can kind of guess that, I was really crap at maths and other topics. That's why I chose to get involved more in business, marketing, or politics, because I thought, hang on, that's the fields where they might care more about your talents and what you have to show, and well, we could sort out the disability later, it won't be a problem. But actually, when you kind of try and have that attitude in the French system, doesn't work that well. And at the baccalaureate, so that the exam at the end of your schooling period, I had to dictate it letter by letter to someone, just to be sure that I wouldn't cheat or be privileged compared to the others, even though I had 5 persons watching me, so on and so forth, just to be sure that, people would not be like, oh, he's so cute, we'll try and help him with the exam. And, and so first of all, it was really difficult, but I managed to have a 6/20 when it comes to maths. And I think, well, for someone with CP, it's not that bad. That's true. But if the schooling system could have thought, hang on, maybe he has other talents or abilities to showcase. We are all privileged to live in a world which is so diverse, because diversity enriches the soul, and that we all have something to contribute, and all have to play a role in the future of this planet and the people who live on it, then it might have been easier for me. On the second slide, now I ask you to please fasten your seatbelt. Let's cross the channel and travel all the way to London. Just a disclaimer, I'm not working for Eurostar or British Airways. Just be reassured about that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about universal rehabilitation, because when I moved to Britain, I had the wonderful pleasure of discovering the NHS. And I'm not saying that to be sarcastic, but because I think people from Britain can really be proud of having such an organization with wonderful ethos and values, because when we know that the St. James Declaration, which later gave birth to the United Nations, was made in London during the Second World War, and mentioned that everyone should be entitled to the right to health, well, that's something to be proud of, I think. The only thing I was a bit disappointed about is that usually the NHS doesn't give regular and ongoing physiotherapy to adults with cerebral palsy. And in France, I was, I think, privileged to have, depending on the period, in between 3 and 5 sessions of 1 hour physiotherapy, or 1.5 hours physiotherapy sessions per week, as well as other therapies. Now, I have to admit, people from Britain, you will wonder why there are long queues in the A&Es. I'm responsible, because when I had no physiotherapy, I ended up hyperventilating and other stuff quite a lot, being really stiff. I'm sorry, I thought the Berlin Wall had fallen down in 1989, but apparently not. And so I ended up in A&E at the nearest hospital quite often. And I admit, I did have a tendency to chat with the nurses. So maybe that's one of the reasons which could explain why the A&E queue had been so long. And really, that's not something to try at home, or for any of you not to have physiotherapy for several years. And perhaps the person who then gave me physiotherapy with such dedication when I came back to France could testify at some point, but I think I was kind of a bit of a mess when I came back in terms of physical care. And I know that one of the reasons why the NHS does not give physiotherapy might have to do with cost effectiveness. But on the other hand, I mean, my range of movement is and will always be severely limited compared to yours, sorry. Which means that although I have extremely dedicated PAs who make me walk, sometimes it's not possible with everyone because I've got around 10 different people helping me. And the 10 meters you make to go to the toilet might not always be enough and make the full difference. And I don't see why your life expectancy should be valued more than mine or that of any other person. And what I find a bit of a pity is that we've got wonderful tools nowadays. We've got the international classification of functioning, we've got the WODAS assessment scale, which were made by the WHO to assess disability, whatever the environment or culture. But if we are not able to guarantee at least a basic level of universal care, then I don't know if it's really worth it. And now I would like to go on the third slide, if that's possible. So now I wanted to address the young generation and make a pledge to you, because I've, then when I came back from Britain, I tried to get involved and start to work. And I won't mention any country in particular, but in certain countries of the European Union, we are very good to make a law in one night when one building is under fire, everything, no matter how important and how historic the building, we find all the means, we convene a council of ministers, and everything is done and settled in one night. But when persons with disabilities who might require an assistant with them at work in order to help them on a daily basis, kind of ask the system for such an assistant, and you end up one day going to the administration with your wonderful assistants, and you're told, sorry, but you will not be able to work together because we no longer have enough funds. Well, you know, before you were at the UN, so we tried to do kind of an effort because it was good for the image of France, so on and so forth. But then now it's going to have to come to an end. And that they suggest to replace a wonderful human being with machines and voice recognition system. To me, this raises a few questions. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be more cost effective to give me a voice recognition system, because after all, you only have to finance that once and then you're done with it. Whilst the PA in professional life, you would have to pay him or her every month. And you know, if that's someone who needs to have 2 degrees and speaks English, well, that doesn't come cheap. Or, I mean, I don't know a lot of people who would accept to be so dedicated than to work for a minimum wage and commit to it. But it can happen sometimes. And then, well, but what's the point of me staying at home or not being included and with voice recognition system? What makes us better human beings is our interaction with each other. And what I would like to pledge to you all today is 2 things. First of all, at this EACD, let's commit that, you know, we're in Paris, supposedly one of the very important cities when it comes to enlightenment, so on and so forth. Let's commit to give a career to all persons with disabilities who would want to have a career. And let's reaffirm that every human being is worth a lot. and that we all matter. Secondly, when it comes to our carers, so carers means parents, brothers, sisters, whether adopted or not, it doesn't matter really. We dedicate their lives to helping a family member who might be affected by the disability and who in return are generally not paid and not valued a lot. And before doing this keynote this morning, I was reading a report by the Local Government Association in Britain, which mentioned that actually carers do save quite a lot of money to the healthcare and social systems, and that without carers, well, all of us would be in trouble to access what we need from the state. And I think these people to me are the real heroes, and especially to carers who are young, I would want to say that I would commit my whole life to ensure that you can access the careers and professional experience you would want to have access to, pioneering and groundbreaking in bringing inclusion to companies or whatever you would want to do, because after all, here is 3 reasons why you would be great employees and why carers, whether young or not, would be great employees in any company. Because A, you might know the diversity of the world better than your boss, or at least some of the big greedy bosses in the company. Secondly, you might be more committed, and we can absolutely be sure that you would be some of the most loyal, devoted, and dedicated person that they've ever met. And the third thing is that, you can be sure that at least you'll save money to your boss and to the company. And sadly, it matters nowadays. Why? And why will you save money? Because actually, if you weren't there and continuing your role even in a remote capacity, well, then the company would have to pay more taxes, and the shareholders and your boss would be paid less. So actually, you kind of save money even to your boss and to the companies, which then in turn can make more profits. So we all benefit. I really wish all carers the very best for you all in your lives. Maybe we are in your hearts a bit, but do know that ours are beating for you all every second, and will continue to do so the rest of our lives. And the last thing, so on the next slide, I wanted to suggest to you all, well, the next slide is not really there, but it doesn't, it's here, but it doesn't really matter, is to end up with a little bit of physical activity, because that's good for everyone else, as we just mentioned. And let's give all families and carers a wonderful standing ovations, and families and carers in return to the professionals, because we're all really in the same boat, and I hope we'll continue to make a difference in the future, because really there is no better gift than human life. Thank you very much.